champion of the Golden Order, king consort to Queen Rennala, the second Elden Lord, and the most enigmatic figure in the lands between, Radagon. His true nature remains shrouded in mystery despite the significance of his role. Many possess an incomplete understanding of this character, oftentimes a mixture of verifiable facts, partially credible theories, and at times pure conjecture, a consequence of FromSoft's cryptic method of communicating vital information. Let us map out all the details in order to discern who or what Radagon is. Information regarding his early life is scant. Not much is known about his origins. According to the earliest historical records mentioning him, he was a champion of the Golden Order, serving as a warrior on behalf of Queen Marika. He would not be a mere warrior for long, however, quickly rising to prominence and assuming a very important role. Many years ago, before the Golden Order assumed dominance over the entirety of the lands between, they faced many enemies and lands that refused to be subjugated. One such enemy was faced in Liurnia.
The Carrion Royals, led by the mighty sorceress Queen Rennala, were a significant power in the northern regions of the lands between, with Liurnia being their main territory. The Carrions were masters of sorcery, wielding arcane powers that differed greatly from the incantations used by the Golden Order. They presided over the Academy of Rhea Lucaria, a bastion of magical learning and knowledge, which stood in opposition against the will of Queen Marika, both ideologically and militarily. During the two wars fought between the factions, it was Radagon who led the Order's armies against Rennala, facing her in battle personally numerous times. Neither conflict yielded a decisive victor, with both sides suffering significant losses.
Towards the end of the Second Liurnian War, Radagon repented his actions against Liurnia using Celestial Dew, a substance well known to any Tarnish who has thoroughly traversed the lands between. He then swore his love to Queen Rennala and married her at this very place, the Church of Vows. This marriage subsequently ended the conflict between the two factions, ushering in regional stability.
This period of peace in Liurnia marked a significant transformation for Radagon. It was during this time that he gained his reputation for not just his ability on the battlefield, but also his affinity for the arcane magics. As part of the Carrion royal family, in addition to fathering Ranni, Rykard, and Radahn, he would learn and master many potent spells, becoming a powerful sorcerer in his own right. Once Marika banished Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, Radagon answered her call. He abandoned his previous spouse, Queen Rennala, and married Marika, becoming the new Elden Lord. This marriage marked his and consequently all of his children's ascension into godhood. Before leaving, he gave Rennala the amber egg we see her clutching and whispering to when we encounter her. The egg is made from the invaluable sap of the Erdtree and contains the powerful great rune of the Unborn. Rennala did not receive this abandonment well, despite the parting gift. She spiraled into a deep depression, with her madly obsessing over the amber egg, to the point of not even being able to defend herself, as the version of her fought when challenged is an illusion cast by her daughter, Ranni, not her. The Academy, seeing her in this state, confined her to the Grand Library. As for the Carrion Royals, their perceived inability to maintain order following Rennala's descent into madness led to a series of bitter civil wars between various factions in the region.
While seemingly a mere tool for the Tarnish to redistribute their runes, Perhaps there is more to this egg. Perhaps it is the source of Renala's affliction. One compelling theory is that Radagon and Marika orchestrated this the entire time. Think about it. If military might proved insufficient to conquer their at the time greatest rival, then alternate methods would be necessary. Methods such as slipping an agent into the ranks of the enemy, an agent who would grow in power and weaken the enemy simultaneously, an agent who, when it came time to leave, would subdue the single most powerful sorceress in the world and the single unifying leader of the enemy in one fell swoop, with an artifact that would keep her locked away in madness, forever pacified.
Whether that be the case or not, upon Radagon's ascension, he took on the duties of an Elden Lord, ruling alongside Marika. He fathered 2 children by her, the twins Mikola and Melania, each cursed in their own twisted way. This remained the state of affairs until the events preceding the game's beginning. It all started with Marika shattering the Elden Ring supposedly in reaction to the assassination of Godwyn the Golden, her son. This violent uprooting of the Order precipitated a series of wars between Radagon's and Marika's children, referred to as the Shattering. The skirmishes and battles would ravage every corner of the lands between, with nobody left to pick up the pieces amongst the rubble. Amidst this turmoil, it was Radagon who took on the responsibility of restoring the Elden Ring, with him remaining in the Erdtree and futilely attempting to repair it. Until a nameless, tarnished warrior who succeeded him as Elden Lord challenged him to battle.
At first glance, Radagon seems to be a conventional warrior turned Elden Lord, like Godfrey. However, when subjecting his history to the tiniest amount of scrutiny, numerous inconsistencies and points of suspicion emerge. In fact, there are many things about him and Marika that make no logical sense on their own.
First of all, why was Radagon chosen to lead this conflict against Liurnia instead of Godfrey, the then reigning Elden Lord? Godfrey famously put the giants of the mountaintop to the sword, with him being instrumental in the near extinction of this enemy. As the Golden Order's mightiest warrior and its greatest battle commander, he had personally conquered many territories under the Order's control. Even if he was preoccupied elsewhere to the point of unavailability, why Radagon? Why this specific, seemingly nameless champion, one of many within the Order's ranks? He failed to achieve any significant victories during either of the Liurnian Wars, so he clearly lacked the martial capability to lead this conflict.
Let's assume then, as a hypothetical, that this was a planned maneuver, that they intended on stalemating the 2 wars and then getting Radagon to marry Renala. As king, or at least king consort, Radagon could rule Liurnia, or at the very least steer the directions made by Renala to the favor of the Golden Order. If this was the case, the Golden Order would de facto have control over Liurnia through Radagon, and Renala, being the threat that she is, could be taken out towards the end with the Amber Egg.
However, a plot this elaborate would require an almost impossible level of foresight and planning. They would have needed to understand Renala's desires with uncanny accuracy while meticulously orchestrating every step, beginning long before the conflicts in Liurnia. And then, after successfully infiltrating the enemy, after all this work, just to give up everything by leaving Liurnia and causing chaos? It leaves more so an impression of a plan gone wrong, if it was a plan to begin with. This isn't even to mention that for all this to work, Radagon and Marika need to have a close relationship. Not just when they got married, but much, much earlier, as this is a very complex, long-term scheme that would have required a great deal of trust and communication. How could a seemingly ordinary champion of the Golden Order have had this close of a relationship with Marika?
If we were to take a step back and think strategically, the most advantageous course of action would have been to allow Radagon to keep ruling Liurnia. Because as long as he's at the helm of the region, or at least is the king consort to the person who's at the helm of the region, the Golden Order could enjoy all the benefits of having dominion over the territory without having to actually conquer it.
Instead, they removed its leader and left the region to descend into war and chaos. While a divided Liurnia might have been more vulnerable to conquest, it was never conquered. The soldiers we see in the region are not those belonging to the Golden Order, nor do they pledge allegiance to any god or demigod that once aligned with the Golden Order. They are the forces of the local factions that are battling it out amongst each other to this day. Radagon's abandonment of Rennala directly contradicted the Golden Order's interests, as it resulted in further conflict and instability within Liurnia. It was, to put it simply, irrational.
Mind you, that this entire scenario, the one that hinges on this being a premeditated plot, is the more likely one. If there was no plan, no plot, and Radagon just did this, then he led 2 wars against Liurnia, killing God knows how many people. He then defected from the Golden Order to Liurnia. He became a sorcerer, had kids, had an entire family in Liurnia, and then he abandoned everything in Liurnia to be the Elden Lord, leaving the entire region in chaos, war, and destruction. This does not exactly seem like the actions of a singular, consistent person, does it?
There are more discrepancies and facts that make it difficult to navigate through the story the further one goes on. The entirety of the Golden Order, when it comes to powers and abilities, utilizes faith-based incantations. By the time he becomes Elden Lord, Radagon is more so a studied intelligence-based sorcerer, an outsider, one of the enemy by Golden Order standards. He's not only accepted back into the Order, which is to an extent a religious organization, but is also given the second most powerful position immediately after Godfrey's banishment. Speaking of, why replace Godfrey with Radagon? Leading a singular conflict or multiple conflicts against a singular enemy is one thing, but assuming the monumental role of Elden Lord is another. Godfrey, as mentioned before, was a demonstrably superior warrior and, more importantly, possessed unwavering loyalty to the Golden Order. This was on full display when he marched all of the Tarnished to their deaths, just as Marika instructed, who was a competent and effective Elden Lord. Some might speculate that his banishment was related to his Omen children, but Godwyn the Golden turned out normal for godlike standards. He even was a decorated hero in his own right. Marika's children with Radagon, on the other hand, were arguably even worse off, as while Mohg and Morgoth were just Omen, Miquella and Melania were both born with horrific curses. Of particular importance is the fact that once Marika fractured the Elden Ring, Radagon committed himself fully to its repair. Why would she break the Elden Ring and betray the Golden Order, despite spending her entire life spreading its influence and power? Why would Radagon, in turn, do the opposite and try to repair it, especially after everything he sacrificed to marry her in the first place? Was he loyal to her this entire time? Or was he loyal to the Golden Order and the Greater Will? Compared to Godfrey, who is a noble, battle-hungry warrior through and through, whose personality can be gleaned from merely reading of his exploits and felt when standing in his presence, Radagon's actions don't align together to paint him as a singular person with a consistent character. His decisions can be categorized as both erratic, eccentric, and impulsive, but also patient, manipulative, and cunning simultaneously. He serves the interests of the Golden Order, then goes against them. He flocks to Marika immediately, and then opposes her. Just who exactly is Radagon, and what is the nature of his relationship with Queen Marika? A big revelation when it comes to this lies within the quest line one must follow in order to achieve the Age of Order ending. Throughout the quest line, the Tarnished follows another Tarnished, who goes by the name of Goldmask. Goldmask is a famed scholar and a Golden Order fundamentalist who, before the events of the game, predicted the guidance of grace. It was the guidance of grace that led him to being in the lands between to begin with, as he is tarnished, like us. Goldmask does not talk. He does not fight back upon being attacked. He merely stands, shifts his fingers in a specific rhythm, and whispers to himself in contemplation. Goldmask was attempting to figure out what the problem with the Golden Order was, and the mystery that stopped him from being able to think his way further was the identity of King Consort Radagon. In order to settle this mystery, the Tarnished must first acquire the incantation version of the Law of Regression. The Law of Regression has the effect of cleansing the user of all status effects, such as Scarlet Rot or Frostbite. Something noteworthy about it is that this incantation has an intelligence requirement, as opposed to a faith requirement. This oddity is shared with the Law of Causality as well, which is not what one would expect from the two very laws that the entire Golden Order is built upon. When walking up to the statue of Radagon and using the Law of Regression, the statue turns into one of Queen Marika. And so, it is revealed. Radagon and Marika are one and the same. This fact is all but confirmed by the game, as not only are we directly told this at the statue, but in the beginning cutscene, we can see Marika turning into Radagon. During the final battle against Radagon, we see him literally emerging from the body of Marika.
Given all we know about these two characters, Radagon and Marika, them being the same exact person makes absolutely no sense. I mean, how? How could they be the same person when they've been known to be in different locations simultaneously? How could they be the same person when they've done things that contradict each other's interests all the time? How could they have kids? How does any of this work exactly? Unfortunately, this is the point where we must tread on what can be described simply as speculation, because aside from being told directly that they are one and the same, and being given a few vague quotes and lines from here and there, the exact details as to how they are the same is unfortunately not shared with us. This is par for the course when it comes to all FromSoft games, because when it comes to lore information, nothing is just plainly said. Everything is doled out in bits and pieces of vague information from narrators of varying reliability. And on top of that, there is the translation from Japanese to English to worry about, which is amazing. This is going to be my best attempt at explaining exactly what Radagon is.
When traveling through the Realm of Shadow, we meet others who are led here by Miquella's charm, each exploring different parts of the region for their own interests. One clear direction given to us is to follow in Miquella's footsteps. What this literally means is for us to find every single one of the crosses of Miquella. But these crosses are more than just places where one might find Scadutree fragments. On his path to becoming a god, Miquella went on to let go of bits and pieces of himself. We are told which exact part he abandoned at every cross. These include sections of his body such as flesh and limbs, in addition to certain emotions, such as love, fear, and doubt. So, in addition to physical parts of his body, he's able to sacrifice parts of his mind. But what happens to these parts? Do they simply fade out of existence? Are they picked apart and consumed by the animals in the area? While we do not know what happens every time, we do have an example of what happens in a very specific case. Within the Land of Shadow, once one rides down to the south and reaches the Stone Coffin Fissure, they can find another one of Miquella's crosses. This was the point in which Miquella abandoned his love. But this love did not just disappear, it manifested itself within the form of a different character entirely, Saint Trina. Saint Trina is not some shadow figure or illusion, she is a physical person, one who can act and think on her own. Her being the same love that was abandoned by Miquella is all but confirmed.
Throughout our entire journey across the Lands Between and the Realm of Shadow, Miquella is the closest analog that we've encountered to Marika. He is not only her son, but is also the son of Radagon. And just like how his mother succeeded before him, Miquella is attempting to become a god by climbing the steps of Anir Ilim and passing through the Gate of Divinity. It is therefore a reasonable assumption to make that Marika, at her most powerful form as a god with the Elden Ring, can do everything that Miquella can do.
So, how does this tie back to the origin of Radagon? Given the fact that we know almost nothing about him in terms of who he was before serving the Golden Order, that he somehow just appeared and then immediately was pushed to the top of the hierarchy of the Golden Order, and that he had a very close relationship with Marika this entire time, I think that Radagon was never his own person. I think that similar to how Saint Trina was a part of Miquella, Radagon was a part of Marika. An additional way that this lines up is the change in gender. Saint Trina is female, as opposed to Miquella, who is male. This lines up as Radagon is the male other self of Marika, who is female.
To put it more concretely, Radagon simply did not exist before the Liurnian Wars. He was specifically made for the purpose of ending them by Marika, who shaped him in the form of a person who would seduce Rennala and take out the Carian nobles without the need for wars. And because they are parts of the same person, communication will not really be needed as they both have the same thoughts and the same knowledge.
And the entire time that he was apart from Marika, it was two parts of the same being kept from one another, with them wanting more and more to be reunited again. This aligns with the law of regression, a key principle that the entire Golden Order was built upon. All things yearn eternally to converge. This is further reinforced by Marika's own words that Melina conveys to you after defeating Morgott. This could mean that due to Radagon going off on his own and becoming his own person, he became different to Marika. Therefore, upon reuniting, the two do not yet converge into the same body until the shattering itself. Or maybe they did, but they did not become the same being and were just two different personalities inhabiting the same body.
Although, there is still one problem that we have yet to tackle. We've explained how Radagon and Marika are the same, but not why their actions diverge so greatly. The law of regression is more so a grand, universal, philosophical rule than like a contract everyone has to abide by or they die or something. We've not explained why Radagon is so inconsistent with his actions. Let's remember, he betrayed Rennala to go marry Marika, and when Marika betrayed the Golden Order, who she championed her entire life, he betrayed Marika by sitting in the Erdtree and trying to repair the Elden Ring, which is the opposite of what Marika did. It could be said that in his time apart in Liurnia, for example, He gained new experiences, he changed, and he learned to act and think independently of Marika. When Saint Trina, for example, lived independently of Miquella, she came to the conclusion that the best thing for Miquella is for him to die. She thought this because she loved him. She was the love that he threw away, and to her, godhood would be an inescapable prison for Miquella, with death being the ultimate mercy. She felt this out of love. So, what motivated Radagon this entire time? Was it love for Marika, just as how Saint Trina loved Miquella? Or was it fear of Marika's power? What specific part of Marika did she give up to create Radagon? What specific part that simultaneously explains all of his actions and all of her actions without it? Obedience.
During the entire time that Radagon was a champion of the Golden Order, through his marriage to Rennala, and throughout his reign as Elden Lord, he was the embodiment of absolute obedience. And no, not obedience to Marika, obedience to the greater will. Through this single lens of obedience, his seemingly erratic actions coalesce, forming an image of unwavering, singular purpose. Every deed, every decision suddenly aligns to describe a man totally devoted to the Order, leading to Marika herself describing him as a loyal hound of the Golden Order. Why would a loyal hound give up an entire region to become Elden Lord? Not due to greed or hunger for power, but for the Order. When Miquella gave up his fears to climb the steps of Erdtree, those fears were no longer a part of himself. Neither was the love he gave up that became Saint Trina. So, when Marika created Radagon out of the obedience she had for the Golden Order, that very same obedience no longer existed within herself. That was the turning point. The moment Marika began to stray from the path that she was on. No wonder why almost every single questionable deed of Marika began around the time period preceding the Liurnian Wars. It's why she exiled Godfrey and the Tarnished, setting in motion a plan for their eventual return. A plan to slay the champion of the Greater Will, the Elden Beast. It's why, throughout the game's narrative, we see glimpses of her defiance, her subtle acts of rebellion against the Greater Will. She shattered the Elden Ring because at her core, she was no longer bound by the chains of obedience. But Radagon was. He did his duty and subjugated Liurnia for the Order. He returned to Marika and became Elden Lord irregardless of whether he wanted to or not, but because he needed to, for the stability of the Golden Order. The Order needs an Elden Lord, and when Marika sends off the current Elden Lord, marching to his death as part of some plan to destroy everything, he returns to set things in order despite the costs. And when she destroyed the Elden Ring, he remained the loyal hound, trapped within the Erdtree, trying to repair it.
So, there we have it. Radagon's exact nature and his relationship with Marika. Although still an unconfirmed theory, I've based it on actual verified facts, so at least some portion of it is correct. In any case, this was a very fun video to make. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
It's been a while, hasn't it? But alas, I am returned! I'm not sure exactly who's gonna watch this video, whether it be new people through the algorithm or some of my older viewers who used to watch my previous content. So this is a bit of an update or an introduction to you guys. So first, to the people who used to watch the old content, it's been a long time. I can't even remember, like what, 9, 10, 11 months since I made my last video. Like, my life has changed so drastically when I compared from now to that point in time. The biggest difference that you would notice immediately upon seeing my face and just some of the IRL portions of the video is that I've lost a significant chunk of weight. So I've essentially gone from 104 kilograms by the time of my last video to now where I am at 87 or 88 kilograms. So I'm really proud of the results, but I have to go further to kind of achieve the look and the amount of health that I want. In terms of the how, it's not that difficult. I started eating a lot more healthy and started going to the gym to do some weight training and also some cardio on the side to burn some calories. On the career and education front, I finally finished my electrical engineering degree, and I'm working full-time as an electrical engineer, which is an awesome job, and I'm loving basically every second of it, or most seconds, I guess. Now, the relevant portion. When it comes to the YouTube channel and just the content, this break was always just a break. I mean that I was never gonna leave forever and never make a YouTube video again. I really love making content and having people watch and enjoy it, so this is my official return. The biggest thing of note is that I don't want to make videos like the ones that I used to make all the time. If you guys remember, a lot of my content, especially towards the end, was just me commentating over playing the game. And while I'm good at doing commentary live while playing, I don't know whether it was the lack of creativity going into the videos, whether it was the fact that I couldn't really feel too proud of the videos aside from their performance. It was probably the game I was playing, let's be real, that tarnished the entire format for me, but I just don't want to do that anymore. I want to make a lot more high effort content with a bigger focus on storytelling. Now, before I get ahead of myself, this is not an announcement of my return to full-time content creation. It's also not an announcement of an upload schedule or when my next upload's gonna be. For now, I really want to take things slowly and really just figure out how exactly I want to make these videos. Just laser hone in on the quality that I wish to deliver them with. I know from experience how the pressure to just get some sort of video out ASAP can lead to one compromising on the quality of the video and making something that isn't really what you had envisioned. As for the topic, I am essentially starting with Elden Ring lore because while there is a lot of Elden Ring lore channels, a lot of the channels don't exactly describe the lore in a way that's obvious to me. Like, the second the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC came out, and we saw St. Trina and everything, I immediately figured out that Radagon was like the clone of Marika. But when I watched these lore channels, I couldn't find anything that mentioned that. Now, I feel that way towards a lot of the topics around the game that are covered. So what I want to do with Elden Ring lore content is cover things the way I see them, with how they make perfect sense to me, but it's not really covered by other people. But Elden Ring is just the beginning. Once I've figured out how exactly I want my formula to be, I'm going to branch out to other games that have lore content to be discussed. And there is a ton of games with so much interesting lore that I'm excited to share with you guys. As for the community stuff, I will be redesigning the Discord a little bit once this video comes out to accommodate the new viewers. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Thank you guys very much for watching the video up until this point. You don't need to subscribe or anything, or like even, just I'm happy that you watched the video up until this point. And to all the new viewers, no, don't forget about you guys. What's up? How you doing? Not really much to say except I'm just glad that you're here. In any case, that is it for the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.